America is the greatest nation on earth because of our trust in God and a free enterprise system that allows us to own and operate businesses that form the backbone of our economy. Small Business Journal explores how small businesses stay vibrant, relevant, and profitable through the ups, downs, and crazy surprises that entrepreneurship always provides. And now, here is your host, serial entrepreneur and small business champion, Burnell Taylor.
In today's episode, I'm actually going to be my own guest. I'm going to be talking with you about link logic and the power of connections in any business. I consider my links, my proper connections through my career to be perhaps the most important success I have ever had in my career. And I'm going to share some stories with you about kind of my journey in business and how critical my links were, my connections to some really important people in my journey. And as I do so, I'm sure that you'll think the same about your own journey, that those relationships, it's all relationships. I've said this many times on this podcast, that it's all relationships. And the same is true with what I'm going to share with you today. So I started my first business 44 years ago this year. It was in May of 1979. It was a little company called Graphic Center. I was doing screen printing and offset printing with a partner, graphic design, and I grew into marketing. I didn't even realize I was a marketer until my clients taught me that. And I've spent most of my career, 44 years, in the relationships business of putting people together, bringing them together in a cooperative, collaborative attitude in order to help one another. And of course, that's what I do today in my podcast. One of the keys in 1979, the very year that I began business, I was doing screen printing. I screen printed some t-shirts for a guy who was working for 7-Eleven company. That's back in the day when 7-Eleven was cool. Most of you don't remember that. Now it's just a boring C-store. But back then it was the largest convenience store chain in the world. And I had the privilege of meeting this guy, and I just did a t-shirt for a local fun run. It was a 5K in Linden, Utah. And after I had done that, this guy comes back to me about a week later, and he says, I kind of like what you're doing. You have a marketing ability, and I like your graphics. Would you be willing to do some work for my local 7-Eleven district? And I said, sure. And so I started doing promotions in convenience stores. Little did I know that Kim Gessel would become one of the pivotal connections of my entire career. I had no idea. But I started doing these promotions in convenience stores. I did it for a few years. And then as Kim got promoted from his local district to division leader in the Salt Lake City, Utah, I kind of graduated with him. I just climbed in his pocket and grew. And as he got promoted, essentially I got promoted because I was his marketing guy. So perhaps I was a key connection to him, but he certainly was a key connection to me. So fast forward several years. I had since lost my connection with Kim Gessel. He actually passed away, but he had started me on the path to the convenience store marketing space, which I never dreamed. I never planned on doing that. But I kind of found a niche because of him, key connection. Some years later, I had grown until I started doing business with 7-Eleven on a national scale. It wasn't the entire nation, of course. It was just kind of divisions, but division by division, I was gradually growing my marketing business, and I was learning how to strategically bring together 3 different parties: the manufacturer, such as Hershey Chocolate, the convenience store chain, of course, such as 7-Eleven, and the distributor, such as McLean Company. And by bringing the 3 of those together, I learned from a hot tub how to do that. I think I was something around 30 years old. I can't remember the specific time, but I was sitting in a hot tub with one of our clients who was a convenience store owner from Des Moines, Iowa. We were actually in Utah. We were having a focus group here for my company. And he and I were sitting in the hot tub at the end of the day, and everyone else had gone to bed. We'd been playing in the snow that day up at Sundance Resort in Utah. And we were tired after the play and after our focus group. And we were just about ready to go to bed. And as I started to climb out of the hot tub, he said, "Hey, Brunel, I have an idea for you." And so I sat back down, and then he gave me something that later I named the fold-in formula that I never knew. I didn't know this before this event. But in 5 minutes' time, Dennis gave me a strategic way of negotiating with those three parties I just named. And that, again, shifted my paradigm. I was still in the convenience store promotion business, but now I was seen on a larger scale. I call it layering. I went from, Utah County in Utah to Salt Lake City in Utah to the state of Utah, and then to Dallas, Texas. And, eventually at this point, I was, kind of a regional marketer. But Dennis taught me how to take this to a national scale. Key connection in a hot tub. Then, as I was doing promotions in convenience stores, I was learning more and more about how to actually be a marketer and a collaborative person, a relationships guy. And I got a call one day from a company in the Midwest. It's actually just outside of Des Moines. It's called Farner-Bakken Company, and they were a distributor. And they said, "Can't you provide your services for us as a distributor instead of just to the convenience store chain?" And I says, "I don't think so." So I thanked them and hung up the phone. About a month later, I get a call back from Dean Onken with Farner-Bakken. And there was another man there, a buyer, whose name was Denny Vetter. And Dean and Denny got me on the phone, and they says, "Brunel, we really like what you're doing with the convenience store business. Can't you do it for us as a distributor?" And I says, "Well, I still don't think so, but let me come and see you." And so I went back to Carroll, Iowa. We sat down across the table, and we kind of crafted a method of me doing my promotional system for a distributor instead of for the convenience store, I guess, in addition to the convenience store. And that, again, shifted my paradigm. And so what I'm trying to illustrate in this little monologue here is that through these key connections that I guess I sought them after a fashion, but they kind of found me. I wasn't looking to be in the C-store business. I wasn't looking to go national. Of course, I wanted to be big. Every entrepreneur wants to grow things. But I never saw myself growing to the point where eventually I was in 37 states doing promotions in convenience stores using those three strategic alliances through distributors as well as through chains, and doing it for national manufacturers such as Hershey USA, Philip Morris, the big guys, Coca-Cola, the people who have major brands in the convenience store space. And all of that came through the connections that I had that just kind of found me. One of the other things that helped me to grow was a strategic relationship I had with my Hershey friend. He was the C-store channel marketing director for Hershey USA. And he and I became friends because he became aware of my little company that had grown large enough that it drew his attention. And he started to help me. He said, "Well, consider this and consider that." And he gave me these little nudges and suggestions because he liked me as a person. And, that was certainly a gift. I don't know if I deserved that, but I'm very grateful for it. And he helped coach me. And I remember one day, my company was always based here in Utah, near Provo, Utah. And I would receive the checks. I was working from my home before I actually bought a building and had a manufacturing facility for my products. But I was working from home, and I would walk down the lane in Mapleton, Utah, to a rural mailbox, the kind that's on a stick, with a mailbox on top. And I'd pull out a check from Philip Morris for over 25 grand. And I had dozens of clients like that. And every month, I would get these checks, these payments. And I remember just laughing as I walked back to the house. If Philip Morris had any idea that I was this little country bumpkin in Mapleton, Utah, and they just sent me 25 grand for doing something that they could not accomplish on their own. Let me say that again. They could not accomplish on their own. And it wasn't because I was a genius. It was because of my connections. I just had these people who helped me along the way and kept leading me on my entrepreneurial journey. And so the reason I say that I could do things that they couldn't do on their own is that when you bring together the manufacturer, Philip Morris, the convenience store chain, and the distributor, and you can get them to play nice in the sandbox. And that's not easy to do. They so often, even though you'd think that they would want to cooperate, they're kind of antagonistic toward one another. They want to protect their little nest egg. They don't want to share any more than they absolutely have to. But when you can once get them to share with one another and cooperate on a marketing campaign, you can do better than any one of them could do on their own. And that's kind of the stuff that Denny, taught me in the hot tub when he introduced to me the fold-in formula. So eventually I got to the point that I had a national company. I was doing, I was getting these checks in my rural mailbox. We eventually purchased a large building in Provo, Utah, where we had a manufacturing facility to do the screen printing and sign packaging and sorting and picking, all of that stuff in order to produce these sign kits and promotional stuff to go to these convenience stores all across the country. It's not that I was that smart. It's that I was led by key connections. So the reason I told you that rather long introduction is that through the power of the right connections at the right time in the right place, I was able to enjoy an amazing career for which I'm deeply, deeply grateful. And again, I'll say it the third time, it was not me. It was the connections that led me and tutored me and helped me along my way so that I could enjoy just a wonderful ride. And I'm really, really grateful for that. So as you think about your own business, think about your connections, your relationships with people around you. Who is it that have been your key connections? And is there any way that you could accelerate that to increase your connections, to accelerate relationships on a deeper level, and to, build a more successful company by making it happen quicker or just by natural growth? Let me give you an idea of some of the things that I've learned. I've had an opportunity over my career of coaching over 200 different businesses, small businesses, directly as a personal coach. But I've advised, I would guess, hundreds more. I'm not certain of that, but a lot more. And I've had opportunity. One of the things I love to do is to sit down in a little think tank room and create these new visions, new ideas. I thrive in that space. But I love doing that for other people so that I can help them, on their journey. I'm making this sound a little bit like I'm the person who has all these answers, and that is not true. I'm aged out of a lot of the business that goes on today. I'm past retirement age. I could retire if I wanted to, but I choose not to because I love doing this stuff. But it's not what I know, because the amount of knowledge that I have compared to what you actually need is probably pretty minimal. But I know the right people. And having done podcasts for now over 100 different podcasts, and now moving into the YouTube space where I have my video cast as well, I've established, continued to establish these expanding relationships that are like gold to me. They're very, very precious on a personal level, because I have friends, and I've learned the incredible stories of so many people like yourself, business owners, that I just love to share with other people. But it's what they know more so than what I know. Let me give you some examples now. One of which is several years ago when I was running a mastermind group. I met a woman that became a dear friend of mine, and I said, "So May, what do you do?" And she couldn't answer my question. She was in diversity and inclusion. She was a very knowledgeable and expert coach in that space. But when I asked her what she did, she couldn't tell me. When I said, "Who do you do it for?" And, how does your pricing work? And how does your structure? She couldn't answer the question. And I said, you need to get clear on your story. And so we talked about the elevator pitch. We talked about, mission statement and vision statement and, the things that she needed in her business. She says, yeah, I need to do that. Over 2 years later, I think she and I were friends for almost 3 years before she left the group. But I remember close to the end of that time asking her that same question, and she still couldn't answer the question. And to me, that was heartbreaking because her business was still kind of struggling. It wasn't thriving like it should have done. Her expertise was through the roof. She was really, really good. She'd worked for huge corporations, and now she was independent, and she had this tremendous offering to people that she could help. But her clientele was so small because she wasn't clear on what she actually did. It was all still locked in her head. And those of you who are business owners know how that feels. You can see really clearly in your brain what you do. But when you try to put it into words and give those words wings so that they fly around the room, and you hope that they will nest in the ears of your listener and they don't strike home, it's because you're not clear on your own message. So I have a friend, her name is Amy, and she is an expert at your story, how to wordsmith your story so that you can tell it in a succinct and attractive way to people who would be your client, who could become your clients. But the barrier is that you can't get to them because the words get in the way. Your own head gets in your way because you know it all, but you can't quite convey that to the other. So Amy is just an example. I've got a friend who has a software program, an online SaaS program that is a drip campaign that's the best I've ever seen. And there are some very good sized companies and a lot of small businesses who are using this automated drip system to reach out through email, direct mail, LinkedIn messaging, and just a regular sequential progression that works wonders. I have a couple of friends who are in the print business, one in package design and printing and production. So if you're in the retail space, I've got a great connection in that regard. I have another friend who's really good at cold email outreach, which most of us have pretty negative feelings toward. We say, yeah, that doesn't work. But he maintains that it absolutely does. I can hook you up with him. Digital marketing. I mentioned that I'd kind of aged out of a lot of this stuff in my career. One of the things that I've never really aged into was digital marketing. I don't know the SEO and pay-per-click and all of that protocols and the algorithms, that the big search engines use. I don't know how to do that stuff, but I know a guy who does. His name is Bruce. And he is a Google partner. He's one of the leading Google partners in the nation. And if you don't know what a Google partner is and you don't know what a leading Google partner is, maybe I need to introduce you to Bruce because he is a master Jedi at that sort of stuff. And he's also, the beauty of these people that I'm talking about is that they have the sort of integrity where they're not going to sell you something that you don't need. They're going to offer you a service once they identify that you actually do need it, and then they will be very honest and candid with you. In fact, Bruce has a sort of a ladder that he identifies, saying, well, where are you on your digital marketing ladder? If you're too low, I can't help you. Let me advise you how to get to where you need to be before I can even engage as your provider. So those things are kind of all in the marketing space. Let's move into sales. I have a really good friend whose name is Marv, and he's a hypnotherapist, but he uses hypnotherapy to train you and your salespeople in what's called emotional intelligence, so that you can communicate beyond the logical surface brain into the lower subconscious of the emotions, where all of the essential transactions occur. It's not on the top, it's underneath. And Marv can help your people get past roadblocks. He can help overcome obstacles, help them overcome obstacles that's preventing them from being successful as your sales reps. And he can also do the same with you and your staff, where you have your own self-limiting roadblocks is the best term I can come up with that are preventing you from your success. So I'm just trying to give you some examples, and I've probably done enough of that now. Besides sales, leadership, I've got some really cool guys and women in the leadership space that can help you. The term culture has been so overused. It is, oh man, it's probably one of the most abused and misunderstood words in our day today is culture, because what in the heck does that mean? But there are people who are involved in leadership training and development and team building and, changing and improving your culture, because every company has culture, but, is your culture actually good? Is it strong? If you are trying to get to the next level where you're no longer a small business, you're kind of growing into the medium-sized business space, leadership is going to be essential at some point, whether it's now or not. Operations. Many of you, if you're in the process, and almost every company has processes, but process control, it used to be called SPC, statistical process control. Now it's called lean management, or the Toyota method. It is the Lean Six Sigma is the process of refining your processes and tuning them up, documenting them, and making them so precise that you approach zero errors on everything that is produced in your company. If you want to get offshore, if you want to open up your supply chain so that you're offshore, or even in the US, if you want to access the right vendors and the right people to provide your products and services for you as a small business owner, then supply chain, of course, is key. And finally, finance. If you looked at my books, I am not a finance guy, but I know people who are. So let me get to the title of this podcast. It's called Link Logic. And link logic is the critical importance of the connections that you currently have and the connections that you could have in order to build a much stronger and a robust company. You may not be aware that I don't make any money on this podcast. This is my give back to the small business world that I've grown up in and loved for my whole career. It's to fellow entrepreneurs, small business owners, people who have been around the block, gotten knocked down, gotten bloody and scarred, and have these badges of honor that some people in the regular world would call brain damage. We just think entirely different than most people do. And I love giving back, to those people as I share their stories with others. So I'm not making any money on the podcast. The way that I monetize this is very simple, one way. I love sharing connections with you. Let's spend some time and just do a kind of a business analysis of where your business is today. Where are the choke points that you have? What's slowing you down from achieving your moonshot? And, first of all, I would love to do that just on a personal level. I would love to hear, what is your problem? And is there someone that I know that I could connect you with that could help open up that channel and allow you to breathe in an area right now that you're choking? And if that's possible, I would love to do that as a friend. And of course, I could get some revenue on the backside, but I would not refer someone to you who would not be a valuable asset to you, in my opinion, just for a dollar, because that's not who I am. I'll attach the link. You can reach out to me personally if you would like. Burnell@smallbusinessjournal.org is my email. I'll even give you my phone number, 385-200-4037. So you're welcome to reach out to me. You can also click on the link that's called Small Business Review. Let me wrap this up by just coming back to the starting point of my journey as an entrepreneur. Wet behind the ears, trusted everybody, huge mistake, and not really knowing where I was going to go. I was just a graphics guy who wanted to provide logo design and brochures for people, in Utah County, Utah. Little did I know that there was a national company waiting for me as I went progressively from one connection to another to another. I had the smarts to listen as I made these connections and respond and act on those. But it wasn't my genius, folks. It was those connections. So consider your connections, where you are, where you're going in your life, in your business, and give me an opportunity to just give you a free consultation. Let's just talk and see if there's a way that I could help you. And I would love to do that. And by the way, if you want to be on my show, let me know that as well. Hope you have a great day. Sorry to make this entire monologue. I was not trying to make it about myself. It's actually about you. It's about your connections. Have a great day.
If you like today's podcast, please subscribe to Small Business Journal wherever you like listening to podcasts. Until next time, defy gravity, shoot for the moon, and thank God for the freedom to run your own business in the greatest nation on earth.